Hey, what's going on everyone? Vega here for SerpentX Tech, and in this video we'll be testing out the current cooling solution that I have on this kind of bench configuration where we have an old school Corsair H100i. This is actually an old ASIC Gen 2 pump design. And even though I'm not giving it the best leg up because I only have one fan blowing through the radiator instead of two fans, and it's not even a high static pressure fan, I wanted to compare the thermals on this against the Peerless Assassin 120. Now the Thermalright Peerless Assassin is actually one of the better air coolers. You get two fans and two heat sinks with 6 heat pipes going through them. And right now our thermals are averaging around 80 degrees Celsius on the CPU. And also I want to get some screen grabs of our thermals on the VRMs, but you can see our average is sitting around 80 degrees Celsius right now. I'm sure the liquid temperature on this older AIO, which probably already lost through parasitic loss some of its liquid, is not exactly doing very well. So I need to get this off because I eventually plan on moving this entire system to a different case. That guy right there, and yes, that was Elvis in the background. But I just wanted to compare the thermals. So we're going to swap the cooler out right now. We see where it's at. The CPU is downclocked. We're only pulling around 120 watts, but we are hashing away on it. And now that I got a stable clock, stable setting, stable configuration, and a stable load, see what the temperature difference is, dropping that 80 degrees Celsius down to whatever Thermalright can do. So let's install and compare that right now. Inside the box, we can see our two fans right here on the side. We see the actual heat sink or cooler that we're going to take out, and the box in the middle, because these flaps are both down when you first open the box. The box in the middle obviously has all our hardware, maybe some thermal paste, everything that we need to set this cooler up. So it's just a matter of taking everything out of the box, getting it out of here, and getting it installed. I'm sure there might be a back plate that we have to connect to the back of this motherboard. The instructions are very easy to understand, but we don't need a specialized back plate because we can just use the stock AM4 back plate on this particular model. And we will need this particular standoff. So right here, the AM4, AM5 standoffs, these screws right here, we got 1700 and then 1150. So that's 1150 or 1155 and then 1200 as well. And then if we did have an Intel system, there's our 1700 back CPU bracket. And then there's our 1150 or 55 or 1200 back plate. So we don't need any of that. We just need these two brackets right here, and then these standoffs to mount this cooler. Like these brackets right here are gonna mount on these particular connections, and then that's gonna mount down onto the stock AM4 bracket. So we just gotta remove the stock placement. So this plastic piece right here and up here, remove those and those screws, replace it with these, and then we should be able to mount this to the cooler and get everything set up. I'll show you what that looks like. So we got the stock brackets off. Top one is in. The curve goes towards the CPU. And when you go to mount these things, you know, the little plastic pieces go below it, the screw up top. Don't torque them too much. You don't need to go crazy. And if you're using the LTT screwdriver or any type of magnetic screwdriver, it will give you a little bit of a pain to when you go to get near the actual screw. Just don't over tighten or over torque too much. Just get nice and snug first, and then give it an extra quarter turn once everything is said and done. So there it is. I feel some snugness. Just gonna give it a nice quarter turn. That's it. Not too crazy. Get it tight. There it is. Nice quarter turn. That's it. You don't want to put too much mounting pressure because that's all that, you know, these standoffs are literally putting all that weight right there on that board. Obviously, don't forget to peel this off. I know a lot of people who've done that. And once that's peeled off, we can mount our CPU cooler. I like it because we got cutouts on either side for the memory modules, so we shouldn't have any impact. However, if you do want to fill up those last two slots, go ahead and install your memory now before you install the cooler. Just to show you this, with the memory modules in there, especially G.Skill Trident Z RGB memory, You know, this thing is not going to be able to sit flush with the heatsink once it's set in there. Even if we did put the fan on the backside, which is probably what I'm going to do, it's still going to stick up a little bit because now it's hitting your motherboard I/O shield. So just keep that in mind if you get this cooler, especially if you're going to mount it in a case. Here we got a splitter that we can use if we need to, but I got plenty of motherboard fan headers that we can tie into, including RGB. And matter of fact, they got 2 RGB connections, but the retention brackets are fairly simple. You see they just go into the holes that the device is connected to. So in this way, or the fan is connected to, and then onto the heatsink. In this case, we want to put it on in this direction. So go into each of these holes and then clamp on to the other side, and then just route the cables as best you can. We got one PWM 4-pin header, and then we have one RGB header. Now it's only a 3-pin, but you got a way to connect or piggyback both of them. And we have a 3-pin header right there that we're going to tie into. One more thing, this cooler is pretty tall. As you can see, that last PCIe slot does not have a lot of room. I had to disconnect the 7900 XT, and I had to use a flathead to get in there from this side, right? So coming in from this angle to try to get to that PCIe latch. So just bear that in mind when you're building this system. Now I'm going to mount this GPU back into this slot as best I can. All right, we're booting back up. I would have liked to have the fan on the front, you know, just for aesthetic purposes, but we're just gonna have to make do with what we got. Airflow is coming this way. That's exactly what I'm gonna have in the case, because I'm not gonna have any top fans or anything like that. We're just gonna have airflow coming in from the front, going past the GPU and the CPU, and we're seeing some pretty good airflow back here. This should help cool off the VRMs as well. Cable management could be a little bit better once I get it in the case. I'll probably do something, but these VRMs are getting nice and toasty, and the VRMs at the bottom of this, hopefully it will, this rear fan will help draw that heat away. But let me do some testing and show you the thermal differences. So now we were able to get an average CPU temperature of around 66.5, 66.8 degrees on the same ambient, or with the same ambient air temperature. Definitely can feel significant airflow coming out the backside here. And interestingly, not only did we improve our performance, but we actually dropped our power a little bit by about 4 watts. So we dropped 14 degrees on the core, or around 14 degrees on the core, and around 6 to 7 watts as far as power usage goes. And that's pretty interesting. And then the VRMs, right? Because the CPU cooler, the back fan is kind of just sitting over it. So I'm assuming it's sucking some of the air up and then through the cooler, through the rear fan. And same thing, just projecting airflow this way. Whereas in a CPU or AIO, even in a case, obviously you would have some type of airflow. But with an AIO, there wouldn't be any downdraft airflow over those VRMs. And I mean, temperatures are looking pretty good as far as the VRMs are concerned as well, because originally on one set we were around 66 or 63 degrees, averaging of 65 to 62, and on another set we were averaging 63 to 62.5. And now with this cooler, the Thermalright Peerless Assassin, we're averaging 50 and 49 and 47 and 49.5. So definitely a marked improvement, not only for the VRMs, but the CPU as well, being able to sustain a load without you know, getting a little bit too hot, especially concerning that's an older technology, older AIO. It was just time to upgrade. I just wanted to take you with me. This is not a one-to-one comparison. This is more apples to a tangerine. I wouldn't take it to like, but the Peerless Assassin gets the job done. And since I was planning on moving all of this to a case eventually, I thought it would be a good upgrade. Don't have to worry about this old AIO leaking on me. I do like to use it for test bench purposes every once in a while, maybe some hardware bot benchmarks, but definitely a good cooler. Just make sure you're accounting for the memory height, right? Because if you go to put the fan on there, obviously the fan is not gonna be able to sit flush with the heatsink, it's going to be a little bit higher. And then same thing for your motherboard AIO shield, especially with modern day motherboards. Just make sure you're accounting for that. This thing has a lot of bandwidth and a lot of room, and is one of the best coolers from some of the tech tubers reviews that I've seen. But anyways, that's gonna do it for today's video. Please do me a favor on the way out, hit the like button, make sure to get subscribed, hit the notification bell to stay up to date, as well as check out some of the links in the description where I will have this as well, and that helps support the channel. And I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.